Well, why don't we start with an icebreaker? When being taught about the life cycle of butterflies in kindergarten, I discovered the word chrysalis, and from that point on became the only student who refused to say cocoon. An adolescence of hyperlexia, thesaurus ran through as a pastime, countless years getting calls home for reading in class. Later, my high school superlative was most likely to start a cult, with varying levels of connotation. St. Wilgefortis, patronage, relief of tribulations from abusive husbands, attributes, crucified woman, bearded lady. It wouldn't be difficult to braid a fable out of my tumorous irony. Sudden second puberty, a messiah my father prays to, who, I must admit, has a sense of humor. A joke instead of a toast. Facial hair I could weave garlands through the night before the wedding. I got what I wanted. No ceremony. You'll have choices in the future. I can see them as the hills in front of me get dimmer. Before the final fiddle creaks, before I am hung up like some freakish and punctured flag, untangle your own excess. Disencumber yourself. Refuse to ornament hideousness with bells and balms and let yourself live lighter. In the approaching centuries, a common joke will be that you can't fix ugly. But here's the punchline. You will be able to escape it. You can leave. Pack a bag and say it's for an earthquake. I am starting to see the future for people like us. There are prisms everywhere, floating on the periphery of my vision. Dear God, it's happening. While I am dressed in pink and blue. I know what I prayed for, and I am delivered. I did not ask for the stigma or stigmata. Pray for me. I'll pray for you. Thank you. So this poem that I just read, along with the next two, were recently just featured in Acid Versus Queer Uprising from the LA Poet Society. So you guys can check that out. Physical copies will be available in a few months. A conversation between Virginia Woolf and Sappho. 1. Virginia's letter. It seems what I feel, I cannot write, and if I am able, all that comes are violets, only violets. I am overcome with longing for a girl. Her spirit is monumental for such a slight creature. The fingers which hold my heart are as thin as my ego. Her eyes are oceanic. They disturb apathy and stir my imagination. I'm left fragile as vaudeville, catapulting, crumbling. I have only panicles to offer her. Of all the millions in my head, of all the myriads, there is loud in this quiet. There is weight to these words, like stones in pockets. 2. Sappho's reply. Gentle lamb, this is only Genesis. Aphrodite's hand has struck you with affection. This is not the only time pain will feel good. The arrowhead is but kissing the wedding stone. You think she would bleed berry wine, the whole of her, made from ivory and steel. The clinging of her dress sends you shaking. Naming her gentle would affront the muses. Her heart will be yours in another era. Her heart will love you in secret. Make a song someday of your love and of your violet-lapped bride. You are in love with the girl. Bodicha, occupation, justice-oriented warrior. Distinctions, untamable personality, and lavish mane of hair. It must be explained sharply how of the word rape derives raptus, to steal. Sex becomes a sword when you equate it with a weapon. Pierce, penetrate, prey. Some summer afternoon, after tearing a shirt with my teeth in bed and tying my hair back with a scrap of cloth, you whispered me, Bodicha. Fierce in battle, you explained, known for her remarkable beauty. Are you ready for the horrifying ordeal of being known? You are gorgeous, and pretty, and handsome, and athletic. Lover, legend me someone to worship, and likewise I will kneel. Let's go into something a little different. Let's get into some family poems. I feel like crying on the inside. I want to play dead. Me too. Vocabulary of grief devised by my 8 and 6-year-old cousins, who I am babysitting during COVID, an hour after finding out their father passed away in the middle of the night. Donuts and coffee on the countertop, my aunt on the phone with the mortuary. She needs her husband's cell phone to inform his boss. It's just us, the 3 grandkids. Our other grown-ups attend to the errands of tragedy. I make them each their own lunch, a quesadilla, and a Nutella sandwich with the crust cut off. We watch cartoons, take a walk to the end of the street and back, play, write acrostic poems. When the eldest describes heaven and asks for validation what it looks like, I tell her I'm not sure. I've never been there. Grief breakfast. An hour after my mom sent the text that Virginia moved on, I made banana bread. I needed something to mash my feelings into. A second take at a goodbye helped the unknowable process. She opened her eyes for a moment and spat on me when I spoke to her. I couldn't ask for any more of a blessing. Her color was off, her skin bruised, overripe. I grabbed the pepper shaker by mistake and couldn't help but appreciate the chuckle that escaped small ashes, mixed with sugar, butter, leavening, chocolate. I took a picture before I cut the loaf and placed the slice on a yellow plate. I imagined having enough life to mop the kitchen in heels, but instead fixed coffee and added milk until it was caramel colored, the way we both prefer. How are we doing on time, Jerry?
You could probably do like one more.
Great. So I think this is my favorite poem I've ever written, and I wrote it for an ekphrastic art gallery a few years back, and we each had to pick paintings at random. And then once we wrote our poems, 13 composers listened or read our poems and then wrote music based on them. So everyone, and no one met each other, no one knew each other, and then at the end we all got to perform it together, and that was a really, really great event. So this is called Reconciliation. A sacrifice took place below the pit where grease drips into honey, an offering made for clear passage, all frenzy of wing thud and moth flutter. Hired hands broiled for dimes, grunted, witnessed catastrophe, conspired for a grab at protective measure. Birds' lives, arguably, matchsticks to the lives of working men. Frantic Forsythia kept sweet, succumbed to her snuffing quietly. Above, goldenrod shadows julienne across soil. Young wise look forward, taught the children damage control, made themselves superstitious, used marigold handkerchiefs when their husbands coughed up soot. One of their sons will splint a bent wing, they told themselves. Somewhere, Sentinel will pardon Kohler. Reconciliation will be reached, and no one will know it.
Gloria Medina is here with us. I see you. Hi, Gloria. She, of course, is one of the great poets of Los Angeles, and she's in our group. And so I'm going to start out with two poems sort of centering on that mestizaje that I was talking about, that Latinidad. So, and thank you so much, Gina. So nice to meet you. Okay, here we go. This is called Pitaya Roja. The Latin for it is Hylocereus. Pitaya Roja, as you know, are these wonderful fruits found all over North America, South America, Thailand, amazing. And they look like dirt clods if you haven't ever seen them, right? Like they look like dragon heads or just dirt bombs. They're amazing. And then when you cut them inside, it's red rushes, beautiful violet rushes. So Pitaya Roja. We walk ancestor shellways by midnight liquor stores, Pitaya Roja, passing cars of women off to work in the desert cold. Little flame head, little drop of La Ribera. It said, in heaven, they talk about you like they talk about the weather. On the street, they say your name like a reason for living. Aquí, they show me a leathery dollop in open stalls. I throw my head, this is what you mean? Pitaya Roja, I will never know you this way, revere you how the uncles do, you who change dirt to wine. Because of you, we come into silk, your leather hair, droplet of doghead, desert candy, open-eyed rock, soft rock, red eye, miracle red bush baby, desert ice. I will never know you. There's a story of the Hylocereus, how she bobbled on the milk of heaven through tributaries of Orion's belt and down vermilion sky. She came for sand craters and cinnabar birth canals to deposit like turtle eggs in the rough at Los Barriles. She's flying, great mud-clawed, bloody mouth truth. Along the Malecon we creep in heat and history, white stucco roads glance to the cemetery, the end of all bees turning, lived bodies, places we have leaned. Instead of cempasúchil or sunflowers, I leave Pitaya Roja, the red-mouthed rose at the graves of my ancestors. Flores del Cabo, ojos rojos, a few leather pears for everything that can never be known. So there's that one. So I'll jump right into, on reading Stanley Kunitz, The Testing Tree. Under the tree where he met the bullet, my lover sketched a place for Lorca in his book. All clouds and gray suits, smudges made with thumb and forefinger. He was upside down of green thumbs, the upside downer who makes green things come white, red things come tense. That thing you scrape from the bottom of your heart, a river of saliva longing to form some kind of mythic prince, could fit inside like a shoehorn in the belly. Take him in our hands, all his empathy for men, history, but oh, and only a dead blue eye for a woman, any woman, one woman, women. There's that one. I'll jump right in since you invoked my precious grandmother. Yay. I'll speak about my grandmother who came from the West, who lived here in Los Feliz, in Glendale, Pasadena. And this is something for her. I called Grandmother Book. Page 1. Like a star billowing in the oven, her tinfoil. Page 2. Her potatoes with salt. Page 3. Freshly scrubbed snow monkeys and white pears huddled on her hallway wallpaper. Page 4. Evenings, she'd switch on the record player. It whirred, so warm and low, like another animal in the house. Page 5. In sunlight, she drove us places we belonged. Page 6. On her lap, a nest, a cold bowl of sweet pudding. Cherry's Jubilee is delicious. Page 7. One summer outside Shreveport, she looked through the car window and said, "Some places remind me of things. Does that ever happen to you?" When my father got arrested, he thrashed so hard in the cop car, they sent my mother a bill for damages. It arrived to the funeral parlor and followed us every place we moved for years. I don't think she ever did pay it off. Page 8. Springtime was her tin of butter cookies. Page 9. She showed us days in green grass, and she lives somehow still in all good green things wherever we go. So that's Grandmother Book. Okay, now we're cooking. She always used to say, now we're cooking with gas. Okay, I go to the winter. I go to the winter now, and I honor Sarah Ellen Fowler, who's in the audience, who comes from the wintry Minnesotas and Wisconsins and places around the Great Lakes, the Wauwatosa's of the world. This is called Ethan Frome is a Feminist Love Song. Well, it is. Yeah, Wisconsin in the house. Okay. Imagine snow, cold sheets and shelves of white. Frost cover on mountains, snow so deep in trees that trees become clouds. All men stand broken because of a love song. Deep in coldest snow, men bent near broken drive along. The ice is a feminist love song. The train in mid-country groans along tooth on the earth. Sound of ice in its nascence sheets across plains. The sound of a house settling on the earth is a feminist love song. Your arms trawled me, showing stories of Idaho, tried to reach me even with your veins. Your diffident try was a feminist love song. The way the wind whistles over broken lovers. To break your nose on love is a feminist love song. The alphabet of a boy is a feminist love song. To couple, fingers writing, a new religion, new bodies of girls behind dark shrubs, father's carriage, blankets of twill, lines like arteries, head to foot on some unearthed ruler's edge. Draw me a DNA Superman, join my braids to your root, to be a part of all desire. Build me a house on your blood. To want to join is a feminist love song. The house floating goodbye downriver, horses covered in snow, steel bells of their bones and mandibles, outlined in pen and teacup, hollow jaws and sockets. Pass to some other household. To hold the house is a feminist love song. Kingman, pass us over grief while ice bodes everywhere. A bed cannot hold all such ice, though a bed is a feminist love song.
Yay!
Thank you, friend.
I want to share this poem first because it comes from actually last month an artist roundtable that the city of West Hollywood hosted, and I'm kind of stepping into a new role as West Hollywood city poet laureate, and thinking about what that means a lot. So a bunch of the stuff you're going to hear tonight is probably me grappling with what it means as an artist to have those kind of intersections with like civic institutions, and there's a potential for activism and advocacy there. And there's a lot of red tape and like curious artifacts of history in all this stuff that we do. West Hollywood's a new city. It's 2 miles big, and it was created in the 80s by a coalition of homosexuals and elderly folks who were like, we need rent control. And then they made a city. So this is from their artist roundtable, but I feel like it's so... it resonates a lot with this group and being in this community of artists that we have here. So here it is. Await the inevitable technical difficulties. Share community agreements. Acknowledge the land. Introduce yourself. Do you think you can keep it short? Do you think we can have an equitable arts ecosystem? Can embed, can transform, emerge anew? I'll keep you posted. I'll just share my screen. Just Baldwin. Just Breonna Taylor. Justice. All the white faces in the Zoom. All the poets. All the pets. All on mute. Sometimes mute means listening. Sometimes policy is loud. Who better to craft the language than those who care about words? Please review this draft. Rough, but you know how long the contracts take. To build around our human right to celebrate, ensure the welcome's open. We use this language to get funding. Funding is a foundation. We are building on this language. May there be windows. May the doors be wide. May we be open in 2022 to see it. Yes, open call. Yes, stipend. Yes, checkerboard of faces. Yes, I am missing everyone. Yes, I am making art, even now. Bless you, Linda. Oh man, and then I guess the floor is open and the Zoom is silent, and I have to figure out what to do next. I'm gonna do this one. Sammy's in the Zoom, and Sammy sent me a picture of a group that she's part of that does volunteer trash collection, and asked me to write a poem about it a weekend or two ago. This is all new stuff, and then I'll share some more refined stuff in a second. And so this is my poem. It's entitled "The Volunteer Trash Collectors." In order to appease a technocratic point system, or maybe just for fun, the young people of Calabasas spent an afternoon of quality time one Sunday, in the midst of a global pandemic, looking longingly at trash in a riverbank. With nurses' fingers, they gathered it to them, held the refuse of the rich and powerful close, breathed in its air, stole it, banished it, buried it, called the work beautification, gave themselves to service, showed up hungover or still drunk or after a hike, but brought their bodies, you understand, week after week, river after river, a war on trash they knew they could not win. Sometimes there was coffee. Sometimes they fucked. Wondered what the hell they were doing with their lives. "Live Mas," said the sign on the Taco Bell. Soon, the people in charge of such things said everyone would be able to be vaccinated. The sun was not too bright, the wind pleasant. Either nothing was broken, or everything was. The blue-gloved hands worked their way along the river bank like the spine of the world. There were selfies. Thank you so much. Sometimes there's selfies. I like thinking about and writing about, capitalism and policy and stuff that I think often when especially like male poets do it is just like so pedantic and so terrible, but hopefully finding other ways to do that, other ways to think about how technology and all of these things show up in our lives. This is a short poem. This one is totally from Linda's workshop. Linda runs an amazing workshop every Tuesday night that has been just a great space during the pandemic to gather. And this is just a short little one. Sleeping in the forest, all I can think about is taking a shower. Mountain trees rough the sky. I daydream video games. I am a bad nature poet. Too busy listening to podcasts and starting lovers' quarrels. I've always felt the rainbows in waterfalls were kinda played out. The graphics are better on the PS4. None of us meant to wind up this way. So that's that. Thank you all for listening to, friggin' millennials. And are you even a millennial, Bryn? Are you like Gen Z? What's your deal? Oh my goodness.
I have no idea, honestly. I'm 24. I don't know what I was 97. Whatever that makes me.
It's all made up. You can say what you want it to be. Cool.
Got it, Brian? Are you got anything else in there?
What's that?
Something in your hat?
Oh, there's tons. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
There's more hats.
I thought you were opening this up to a conversation.
No, I just wondered what Bryn, how Bryn identifies generationally. Yeah.
I don't mind saying this because most people know this, but I've been sober longer than Bryn's been alive.
Love that. Now I'm imagining like sobriety as a person, and them like, I don't know, like bossing Bryn around like an older sibling.
I mean, I am an alcoholic, so.
On that note, how about a poem about Scotland?
Do it.
So, I grew up mostly in Culver City, and then for college wanted to get the hell away as far as possible. So I went to the other side of the world, and this is a poem called "My Skin is a Tattoo of the Places I've Been." Arms. When'd you last tingle this cold? Unbirthed into the North Sea as it spat sunrise and broke winter against our misplaced bodies, pale and spotty 18-year-olds in bumfuck Scotland. All of us drunk on Tesco vodka, shivery, bewitched, belly aching for books, slurring distance or mystery, we huddled a horny mass grubbing toward the hot chocolate that steamed from the Christian Union's pop-up tent under the ruined castle bluffs, proffered with thin fingers like a sacrament, like poison, like my mother. Dawn. I scratched out my American tongue. to make space for milky builder's tea, and love's labor's lost line, say that 5 times fast, and the salt-sweet foreskins of boys with strange vocabularies. I made no plans to return. A decade later, I dance from a cryo chamber, negative 150 degrees Fahrenheit, with a reality star guru in West Hollywood, arms tattooed for each transformation. You did so good for the first time, he tells me, eyelashes frosted white. You didn't even shiver. That's that one. And then I think I'll close by sharing a little bit from my book and just doing that mandatory spiel. It's called The Poetry of Strangers. It came out last June, in the midst of last June, from HarperCollins, and it's a book of essays, not a book of poems, but the essays contain poems and are about poems, and it follows my experience traveling around the country and writing poems for anyone who asks at a typewriter, and some of the stories that people brought to me, and the poets and the places and movements that kind of came to the typewriter. So I'll preface it as a pandemic book. I wrote a little poem around its launch that I will share with you now. And this is how it goes. The world is on fire, and I have something to sell. I'd like to sell you the world. It's on fire. It is. But you should buy it. Not because it's safe, but because the economy... That's the end of that sentence. Because the economy. Have you been economical with your words? With your worries? Have your worries been eco-centric or ego-centric? I would like to sell you an ego. No, a biome. Take a look around you, lot to see. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if your questions have teeth. Let me know if your teeth are chattering. Or if you do not have teeth, if you'd like some. I would like to sell you everything that's wrong with you. I can make it so pretty, you will almost believe it's right. I'd like you to steal it. I'll even turn away. Here's my Venmo if you're partial to tip. A girl's gotta eat. I'd like your teeth. What would you like in exchange? I only have the world. I don't carry exact change. I carry inexact change. I carry messes going back generations. Gentlemen callers with questions. They check the teeth to make sure the horse is healthy. My gums bleed. My gums bleed. Seriously, contractors don't get dental. My gums bleed. And here's a little portion of the book. Doug, I wonder if we could get you to mute, just because I think I hear a little bit of sound coming in from your window.
Really? Okay, I don't.
From your open door.
How about now?
Hooray! Thank you, Doug. Oh, I see. All right. So yeah, I'm gonna read a little piece of the book that's sort of thinking about I don't know, thinking about the American dream. Why not go there? Why not end with that? What's the thing? What are we doing? How is it being reinvented? How can we and must we in this moment as we are, recovering from half a decade of bullshit and many decades of bullshit and a year of pandemic and reopening. I'm just thinking about a lot about our places as artists, as poets, as storytellers, in how we do that, and in how we, as Linda talked about it, how we can be of service in this moment. But yeah, so as I mentioned, the book travels around the country with the typewriter. And so this is thinking a little bit about writing and travel and how those things are connected. And I'm excited to be able to do it again at some point. So this is essay rather than poetry. Home and identity seem inextricably linked to me. When people ask for a poem, the most important thing I can get from them is a setting, and the poetry becomes a meditation on place as much as personhood. Joan Didion is often quoted as saying, "The impulse for much writing is homesickness." You are trying to get back home, and in your writing you are invoking that home, so you are assuaging the homesickness. And then I talk a little bit about going to the UK, which I already touched on, and what that looked like. When people in Scotland asked where I was from, I'd say California rather than the US. My accent started to morph, vowels elongating Britishly just enough to blur any sense of being from a particular place. I was young enough that I felt like because I knew no one, I could be anything and everything. In college, I had a job showing high schoolers and their overbearing parents around my St. Regulus Hall, a drafty, turreted Victorian building on the Scottish bluffs that now housed university students. My favorite story to tell them, after lies about the food, was that St. Regulus was a 4th century saint who was given the holy task of bearing the remains of St. Andrew from the Vatican to the ends of the earth. When Regulus landed under the cliffs of frigid Scotland, he said, "I've arrived." When I graduated from university and my student visa ran out, I had no idea what was next. I kept coming back to this idea from high school history class, manifest destiny. How wonderful to have a preordained purpose. Pack up the wagons and move to uncharted lands. Of course, it didn't end well for the people already living there. Go west, young man. But I was from LA, off the coast. I'd spent my childhood at the end of manifest destiny. I'd done sea to shining sea. Where could I turn to for new horizons? What was newer and tackier than LA? Vegas? Manifest destiny hit a limit for the settlers, the missionaries, the snake oil salesmen, and outlaws. They ran out of land. The American dream is the endless reinvention of self. The capitalist dream is endless growth. When we hit the Pacific coast, it split the country in two. The prospect of California entering the Union, the question of whether it would be admitted as a slave or free state, led to the Civil War. What happens when we can't reinvent ourselves anymore? When we can't drop everything and move west? When we ran out of land, we urbanized. A new frontier in technology, everything constantly better and faster, railroad tracks and belching factories becoming rockets and the first man on the moon. The early internet felt like a pioneer town, anonymous chat rooms like Old West saloons at dial-up speed. But we are moving to a space where even digitally, we are running up against the limits of self-reinvention with the social internet. Eternal recording, zoom, and surveillance that demands consistency to brand. So what's next? Do we move backward? Mad Men's Don Draper says, "There's no such thing as American history, only a frontier." But what if that frontier is the past at long last? A hard reckoning we've been putting off. As progress sweeps us all along more and more quickly, suddenly the past and the present start to coexist. The typewriter and the iPhone, the train and the airplane. What it means to be... That's my time. No, I'll finish. It's just a little bit more. What it means to be American is shifting so fast that generations are mutually unintelligible to each other in the pace of our lives, the content of our desires, the quality of our connections. What's being repeated between places, between generations? What's being replaced? If I travel my native country speaking to everyone, one person at a time, it's because I am still trying to find myself here. I am still trying to make this place home.
Yay!
Thank you, Jerry.
Well done.
Thanks, everybody. For